Hello, my name is Ngonyam Kachilanguziko Chishimba. I am an investigator in the Department of Mergers and Monopolies at the Competition and Consumer Protection Commission. Merger controls in Zambia is primarily governed by the Competition and Consumer Protection Act, number 24 of 2010, as amended. For short, we'll call this the CCPA Act, and is overseen by the Competition and Consumer Protection Commission, CCPC. According to the CCPA, a merger occurs when one enterprise directly or indirectly acquires or establishes direct or indirect control over the whole or part of a business of another enterprise. This can take various forms, including the acquisition of shares, voting rights, or assets, an amalgamation or combination of two or more enterprises. It could also be the creation of a full-function joint venture that operates as an independent economic entity. The purpose of these regulations are to prevent mergers that could harm competition by creating or strengthening a dominant position. Merger controls in Zambia is primarily governed by the Competition and Consumer Protection Act, number 24 of 2010, as amended. We're going to call this the CCPA, and is overseen by the Competition and Consumer Protection Commission, CCPC for short. According to CCPA, a merger occurs when one enterprise directly or indirectly acquires or establishes direct or indirect control over a whole or part of a business of another entity. This can take various forms, such as the acquisition of shares, voting rights, or assets. It can also be an amalgamation or combination of two or more enterprises. It could also be the creation of a full-function joint venture that operates as an independent economic entity. The purpose of these regulations are to prevent mergers that could harm competition by creating or strengthening a dominant position in the market. Ways in which we could curb this are by protecting consumer welfare by ensuring fair prices, quality goods and services, and a wide variety of choices. The CCPC also promotes economic efficiency by encouraging businesses to be more innovative and responsive to consumer needs. What we also do is ensure a level playing field for all businesses, especially small and medium-sized enterprises, which we call SMEs. And we also consider public interest factors, such as ensuring that a merger ponders on employment, local businesses, and national economic development. A merger must be notified to CCPC if it meets certain thresholds and involves a change of control. So the major criteria that we look at are: 1, is there a change of control? This is when one enterprise acquires direct or indirect control over the whole or part of another enterprise. Secondly, financial threshold. The transaction requires authorization if the asset or the turnover, whichever is higher, of the merging parties is at least 40 million kwacha as of early 2023. So if your financials are meeting the threshold of 40 million kwacha, this means that your transaction is notifiable by CCPC. Then thirdly, does it meet local nexus? This means, does it meet local nexus? This means, is it happening in Zambia? Are the two entities that are merging incorporated in Zambia? The CCPC covers various types of mergers that are included in the CCPA. These are horizontal mergers, and they could happen between competitors in the same market. For an example, a general insurance company merging with another general insurance company. These are companies in the same market. We also look at vertical mergers, and these are between companies at different levels of the supply chain. So for an example, if a manufacturing company is merging with a supply company, that is considered a vertical merger, and it's looked at by the CCPA. Conglomerate mergers are also considered, and these are between companies in unrelated markets. So for an example, a tech company merging with a supermarket chain store. Joint ventures are also part of the types of mergers that we look at as the CCPC. So joint mergers can include the creation of a full function joint venture, which operates as an autonomous economic entity. The merger review process is a multi-stage procedure that begins with the submission of a formal application. Notification and filing is where merging parties are required to apply for authorization by submitting a Form 1 to the CCPC, alongside with relevant documents such as financial statements, transaction agreements, and market reports. So when it comes to transaction agreements, we are talking about the SPAs and share purchase agreements and the likes. A notification fee, what we usually call the fee note, is also required, and this is usually 0.1% of the turnover or assets, whichever is higher, of the merging parties. And this fee note is usually capped at 6.6 million kwacha. For the review timetable, once an application is complete, the CCPC has a statutory period of 90 calendar days for its initial process, which we usually call the phase 1. And if there's significant competition concerns with the transaction, then the review process can be extended for an additional 30 calendar days, and this is what is termed as phase 2. When assessing a merger, the CCPC considers several factors such as the market share of the merged entity, the level of concentration in the market, any potential barriers to entry, whether the merger would lead to high prices, lower goods, or less innovation. So the CCPC also considers potential public interest factors such as the impact of on employment. Would this merger result in people losing their jobs, or would this merger result in people maintaining their jobs? And will this merger also result in people acquiring jobs, new jobs? So it also looks at factors that could lead to the development of SMEs, as I had earlier alluded, and also the interest of consumers. For possible outcomes, the CCPC can approve a merger either unconditionally or with conditions. The CCPC can also prohibit the merger if it is found to be anti-competitive. The CCPC also issues negative clearance if it is determined that the transaction does not constitute a merger or does not meet the merger notification threshold. For possible outcomes, the CCPC can approve a merger either unconditionally or with conditions. It can also prohibit the merger if it is found to be anti-competitive. CCPC also issues negative clearance if it is determined that the transaction does not constitute a merger or does not meet the merger notification thresholds. Parties that implement a merger without obtaining the required clearance are liable for a penalty without exceeding 10% of their annual turnover. In the event that the CCPC finds out that you have instituted a merger without notifying us, then the penalty comes into place. In addition to the fine, the CCPC has an authority to revoke an approved merger if the parties provided incorrect information or failed to comply with the imposed conditions. So that basically gives us an overview of what merger controls are, the notification thresholds, the process that the CCPC takes in assessing mergers, and the fees that are supposed to be paid to the CCPC in order for us to look at your merger, the time frames taken into account, and basically how a merger is approved.